You want to make your fantasy sports league more than a fantasy? Then you need Trophy Smack. It's the #1 store for fantasy and tournament trophies, belts, draft boards, loser awards, and other ridiculous products. Trophy Smack is more than just a trophy company with outstanding customer service and products. It's the very essence and heart of every fantasy league. And if you click now, TrophySmack.com gives you free shipping, a free loser poster, and can have the hardware to you in a few days. Bragging rights included. Go to TrophySmack.com right now and take your fantasy league to the next level.
Go. It's about to be a jovial 60 minutes, my dude. And you hear right now, what you gonna hear right now? Chase of all the places, and you hear right now, what you gonna hear right now? Chase of all the places, Been win the Dynasty, but does she like me? Feel like a plumber sleeping, now that's a pipe dream. For the right fee, I might be entitled to the title, be on top like the cherry of an ice cream. Sunday, that's the one day I can come play, never complain, cause I know the boys gon' drop a pod, prop up my squad so I can talk a lot. But here we go again, it's a new year, rookies flowing in, it's some new tears. Who here to do fear? Bounce bells over their chest like boutonnieres. It's a new era, happy hour, yeah. Let me ask you this, are you trying to get picks? Are you trying to get rich? Are you trying to get ships? Then you're trying to get this. And you hear right now, what you gonna hear right now? Chase of all the places, and you hear right now, what you gonna hear right now? Chase of all the places.
Hey, welcome in to the Dynasty Happy Hour live on the Fantasy Points mega stream. And speaking of fantasy points, you can use code 21DHH10 to get 10% off a fantasy point subscription. It's absolutely elite. The season is here. You've got drafts probably tomorrow. I know a lot of people, there was a poll on Twitter. There's a lot of drafts that are still going to happen in the next 3 or 4 days, right up until the season kicks off on Thursday. 90% of the subscribers to Fantasy Points made the playoffs in 2020. That number is going to go up because it's that awesome. It's the lowest price in the industry, even lower with our code 21DHH10. They have an analytic powered draft tool. There's DFS optimizer. I play DraftKings DFS just for fun. I'm a quarter arcade guy. I don't like losing money. So I play little bits. And then if I'm up 50 cents, man, huge win. I don't like to lose money. But Fantasy Points is absolutely awesome. Make sure you subscribe today. Use code 21DHH10. This week, we are talking about something a little different. You know, we've got kickoff coming up on Thursday, and everyone's like sleepers and deep sleepers and guys that are still snoozing and losing. And that's all you're hearing on podcasts right now. So we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to go over the unwritten rules to follow in dynasty or redraft leagues you need to know before the season starts. So that's going to be our main topic today. We're also going to hit you with some news. But before we get to that, I am going to introduce my lovely co-hosts, Tyler Gunther out in the great state of Minnesota and James Crease down in Jersey. James, how you doing? You get any flooding with the hurricane down there, guy?
No, we stayed dry here in the south, but I heard North Jersey got a little swampy up there.
A little swampy. How's the weather up there in Minnesota? You guys have winter yet, or what's going on?
No, actually, we're starting to get into that nice foliage. You know, the leaves are starting to fall a little bit, but no, the weather's getting nice. Nighttime's getting a little cooler. We're getting into the 60s.
I can't wait to wear a sweatshirt.
Oh my God. Like I love running at night in the fall because that cool breezy, never really sweat because it freezes instantly in Minnesota. So you just never really fully can sweat. And I mean, it's beautiful up here and the season's changing, which means football.
Oh, there's nothing better. We actually had an invite to go on a friend's sailboat for next Sunday. And I was like, sorry, it's like a holiday to me.
It's an important day to my next Sunday.
It's more like a bail boat.
Yeah.
Going.
I ain't going nowhere. So I told him, I said, sorry, I would love to any other weekend, but the first Sunday of the NFL season is like a holiday to me. Like
Sorry,
everything
not
stops.
sorry.
Everything stops. The world stops. My children and my wife don't exist for at least a day. And I just watch football and I take it all in. And it's beautiful. It's me and my element. And I'm sure you guys feel the same.
Absolutely. I'll be glued to the screen watching 8 games at once. Can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. So let's get into some news. Speaking of those 8 games, we've got some news. We've got some injuries. We've got some COVID stuff going on. We know it's going to be a thing this year. Don't be naive and think that players aren't going to miss games because of COVID. We've already got our first one. It was Zach Martin from the Dallas Cowboys. He's going to be out for Thursday's game. He just tested positive. So unfortunately, the all-pro guard is going to be out. I'm not downgrading Zeke. Sorry, not sorry. They'll have a decent line even without Zach Martin, who they missed for a lot of last year too. So our first big one, and it is COVID related, is Ryan Tannehill is off the list and he is good to go for week 1. So Tannehill, this probably one of the sneakiest QB1s that I can remember here in the last couple of years. And he gets Julio Jones. We're talking a little bit of redraft tonight, right? With the unwritten draft rules.
Yep.
I got Tannehill as my QB1 in like round 12 in one of my redraft leagues. I stacked him with Julio Jones and Anthony Fursker redraft stacks. But I love the value on Tannehill this year in redraft. And if you can go out and try to acquire him, I think kind of on the cheap, even in Superflex leagues, Tannehill is super efficient. I know that, they lost Jonnu Smith, but Fursker's there. They add Julio. I like Tannehill again this year. So he's going to be good to go. We don't have to worry about Logan Woodside projected for 20 points in MFL anymore when you sort players for projections. Sorry, not sorry about that. What do you think about Tannehill this year, Tyler? Are you pursuing Tannehill? What do you think about the Titans offense as a whole?
I mean, I think he's just going to kind of be what he was last year. Maybe an uptick in yardage. But I mean, we all know Julio doesn't score touchdowns, right? So who are we kidding there?
Max. Andre Johnson 2.0.
Exactly. I'm not really boosting him up too much. He's going to be a great end of the quarterback ones. Like he's going to be a quarterback 11, quarterback 12. Like I said, maybe gets a slight boost to quarterback 9-ish. But there's so many good quarterbacks this year that you can pick up late. Tannehill's a great example that I think. I posted on Twitter, due to the 17-game season, you're going to see a lot of statistical things being broken, a lot of years.
Which I hate. That's like one of my biggest downfalls.
It's going to suck because you're going to see you might see a quarterback throw for 5,500 yards. Like that could be a possibility. We've seen 5,100. I mean, Stafford being with the Rams and kind of with their offense.
And he's already got a 5,000-yard passing season.
Yeah, he could be a guy that breaks the season record just because of that extra game. So you're going to have a lot of I think people are going to get trapped into the whole, hey, that's a great season, but then forget that there's an extra game added on. So like I posted on Twitter earlier, that season of 1,000 yards for rushing or 1,000 yards receiving, I don't think is as impressive because that's 58.8 yards per yards per game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not great. I mean, you expect more from running back. So I'm thinking like 1,200 yards is going to probably be the more expected RB kind of and wide receiver value we want out of yardage when it comes to a season. So, I mean, with Tannehill, I think we're kind of staying pat. I like his addition of weapons, but you got to think they're running through Henry.
Yeah, absolutely. James, any thoughts on the Titans before we move on?
I'm on the other side of that. I think Tannehill can take a step up. I mean, we see Arthur Smith leave that offense, new offensive coordinator, and Henry might not be the guy that just keeps bulldozing down. Yeah, of course they're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry, but with the addition of Julio Jones, it gives Ryan Tannehill another confident wide receiver. I mean, we saw Corey Davis excel last year, wound up getting some priority and moving on to the Jets. Julio Jones is going to eat in this offense. He's going to command some targets. And Ryan Tannehill finished quarterback 7 last year. I think he can finish somewhere around that area. I mean, his completion percentages was up in the 70s. So if he can maintain that with the stability, I don't think Ferkser is really like a name to be mentioned as much as we thought. I think since Julio's in that,
I don't know.
I mean, he could be sneaky if you. I know, Doug, you love your tight ends.
It's true,
but I think it's really the main threat of AJ Brown and Julio Jones, and I think Tannehill stays in between that first tier of. I mean, not first tier, but second tier of quarterback ones.
Yeah, and I think Tennessee's defense didn't really improve in the offseason, so I think they could find themselves behind a little bit more. So that'll rise the boats for the passing game for the Tennessee Titans. So we do have more quarterback COVID news. Tom Brady had COVID in February. So not only does he beat Father Time, he also beat COVID. Supposedly he got it right after the Super Bowl celebration. It was on the trophy when they were throwing it from the boat to boat. And that's probably how Brady got it. Imagine all the hands on that thing. Guys were probably kissing it out with it. Yeah, it's a super spreader event. So Tom Brady had COVID. I guess his folks had it too. So I'm glad that they're healthy. I know his mom was battling cancer for a while. So I'm glad that they're all healthy too. So Tom Brady, just another notch in his belt. You can't take him down. The TB12 method, no nightshades, and it's all about avocado ice cream in the Brady household.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, how many vitamins do you think he took during his COVID stand?
None. He doesn't need to.
Probably
Just
none.
eat a bunch of extra celery that day.
But yeah, he wasn't going out
days.
for like horse injections or whatever these.
Yeah,
crazies are doing.
my favorite thing about Tom Brady is there's a Snapchat thing that does sports athletes, and then they go to their gym and fridge, and Tom Brady is one of them. And his gym is legit on the beach. Like, he's got a separate house for his gym, and it's on the beach. You look out, there's a beach. And then they showed his fridge, and there's nothing unhealthy in there. It's all vegetables. He's like, all I eat is smoothies, and he drinks like coconut water if he wants something sweet. Like, that's something sweet to him. And they're talking like, oh, well, what do you do for a cheat day? And he looked at the camera. He's like, there is no cheat days. Like, he's just like,
no days off.
Like, man, this guy,
No
this guy is legit. And honestly, he's
a robot. You know that, right?
I love Tom Brady in Tampa Bay because it just shows how much Belichick held him back personality-wise in New England. He's so fun. Like, he is awesome to kind of just being able to let loose with Bruce Arians as a coach and just kind of being himself. And I love it.
My bold take this year has been that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going undefeated. They're going back-to-back Super Bowls, 20-0 rather. Brady's going to stick it to Belichick in the ultimate way possible. He already won a Super Bowl, and he's like, you know what, Bill? We couldn't go undefeated. I'm going to do it. All the starters return. That's my bold take.
Well,
Tampa
I mean,
Bay.
it's going to start week 1 this Thursday when they roll again over the Cowboys. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Absolutely. So in other news, we got Jamar Jefferson improving every week. He's a deep sleeper. So if DeAndre Swift takes time to get going, which is what we've heard, I've actually been able to draft DeAndre Swift and redraft a little bit later, and he's my RB3 in one league. Super happy about that. I think there's too many people fading Swift. I know the offense is going to be great. Doesn't mean he can't be great in fantasy. I love the talent. But Jamar Jefferson's a guy that he's been improving. So if you go into your roster and you're like, you know what, I got an extra taxi squad or I got an extra roster spot, because you're probably going to get down to your roster limits by Wednesday or Thursday at least. If you have extra spots and he's a guy that's available on your waivers or first come, first serve, I would definitely pick him up. I was actually able to pick up Jarrett Patterson in a league just this past today, actually, because waivers ran. It's a 50 team. It's an IDP. I was able to IR some guys and get some spots. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick him up. It's a contract year league. I got him almost at the stone cold minimum. So moves like that.
Am I in that league?
No. So
okay, I was going to say, I swear, if that is the same league we are in, I made a massive mistake.
Yeah, no, it's not. Don't worry. So I picked him up because you know what? Guys like that, outside of Antonio Gibson, who's had an injury with turf toe, he's got over that. McKissick's not a 200 touch guy. But Patterson, I could see touching the ball a ton. If Gibson misses time, they got rid of Peyton Barber. That could be a wild card that pays off. So I was very happy to kind of go through and see who was available and grab him. So do the same with Jamar Jefferson and you won't be sorry. Guys, any thoughts on Jamar Jefferson before we move on?
Yeah.
You go.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say,
we've been talking about it the past 2 or 3 episodes now with Jamar Jefferson and Khalil Herbert. Tyler mentioned Khalil Herbert. I went out, picked up Khalil Herbert everywhere I could. And we know that Tariq Cohen's out. Damian Williams most likely will be the pass catching back in that offense. If something happens to David Montgomery, we could see Khalil Herbert getting into that rotation as well. So I like the situation for all 3 of those running backs, Patterson, Jefferson, and Herbert. There could be some sneaky rookies that actually get some touches this season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, going back to Jefferson, his tape I loved. I actually comped him to Marlon Mack athleticism wise. He's a one-cut runner, a guy that, cuts into the hole that he needs to go to, and he's off. He's got great speed, He's a guy that can hit home runs. And I think he's a different aspect of the Lions running backs. Jamal Williams is more of a north-south guy. He does a dirty work. Swift is that Camara pass catcher, shifty guy. And then you got Jefferson as that speed, one hit, take it to the house type guy. Jefferson could be a very sneaky end of the roster guy, like you said, Doug, that could really pan out for your team. As much as I love Swift, the guy needs to come healthy. And Jefferson during the preseason has proved that he deserves a spot on the team and deserves such as.
Absolutely. So now we've got some tight end talk. So I'm all perking up because I love me some tight ends. My rosters are absolutely clogged with developmental tight ends. That's a joke. Well, they are clogged, and I probably should do better.
He's not lying, though.
Very developmental.
Yeah. Very developmental. One of these days, Dawson Knox, they released Jacob Hollister. Yes, that's a decent break. I want Dawson Knox to step it up this year. They got rid of Hollister. It's Knox season all day long. But for the Broncos, head coach Vic Fangio said Noah Fant would play week 1. So it looks like he is good to go. Just the leg. Does he have other injuries we don't know about, Tyler?
So, no, I put it on the show sheet because I read it as Noah Fant leg is good to go for week 1. So like
just his leg.
Just the leg. And I laughed and chuckled and I'm like, I wonder if I could slide this joke in with Doug, but obviously I needed to type it a little better. But
I think they should have the rest of his uniform just be green and then shoot it against a green screen. So all you see is his leg.
All you see. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, even when they said his injury, they're like, Noah Fant's leg looks promising for week 1. And it's like, okay.
Hopefully the rest of his body looks promising.
Yeah, like hopefully, he could catch the ball.
I mean, hopefully his reception percentage is a little bit higher than it usually is too.
Yeah, that would be nice. Noah Fant, he seems like one of those guys like that's forever dinged up. So hopefully
like the next guy we're going to talk about.
Hopefully we get a full healthy season out of Noah Fant. The crazy athleticism. My brother-in-law says he was Kyle Pitts before Kyle Pitts. And I'm like, I get it.
More people who had him above
not.
Hawkinson the same year. Remember that crazy?
No, I do remember that.
Man.
So other tight ends, Evan Ingram is more than likely out in week 1, although he did get a full practice in today, if I remember correctly. Saquon, limited touches in week 1. It looks like they're probably going to try to ease in their franchise running back. Kadarius Toney starting to create some positive buzz. He was on the COVID list for a while, and then he had an injury. They drafted him in the first round, and there's a lot of injuries in this Giants passing game. You have Ingram, Golladay with the hamstring. He's got soft tissues, so he just started practicing. Darius Slayton has a foot injury. We talked about it, I think it was last week. If you're in win now, go get Sterling Shepard. He's cheap, and he's going to command a ton of targets. So that's all I got to say about that. But Evan Ingram, I just don't think he's going to be it for the Giants. He's going to have to move on to another team in Dynasty to really get that value. Unless they can prove that they can use him, because last year it was drags all day long. He ran 5 yards. He was like Juju on this offense, 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. And that was it. And that's not how you use a player like Evan Ingram. You have him stretch the seam, you throw downfield, you use him like George Kittle because he's just as athletic as George Kittle for the most part. But yeah, so talk to me about Kadarius Toney, James. This news, I mean, I know you're a Giants guy.
Oh,
so talk to me about Toney. I found him slipping into the late second round in rookie drafts, and I went and grabbed him in a couple of leagues because first round draft capital.
I think he has the opportunity, maybe not this year, but next year. We have to see what happens with Sterling Shepard. We have to see what happens with Darius Slayton. And, Shepard is, I hate to use the words injury prone, but 50% of his career, he's been missing games. So I'm not on board fully with Sterling Shepard. I think the whole Giants offense is a big question mark when it comes to injuries. It seems like every week somebody else is missing practice.
Kyle Rudolph
somebody else is taking drills on the sideline. I think Kyle Rudolph just came back.
He did.
And it was the
Anthony
same
Thomas
time
is
where
getting owned at left tackle.
Oh God! Same
You guys
time
had
as
5 left tackles to choose from, and he chose the worst
here.
one.
Where's Nate Solder at? Is he back on the team?
I think on the right side.
I don't think so. I don't think Solder's back. The couple guys that I did like from the preseason, Caden Smith showed a little bit of promise with Evan Ingram out. He did catch that touchdown in preseason. I think Toney has an opportunity here. He's a speedster. Okay, he's got quick hands. If
joystick.
Saquon Barkley is getting a snap count, like I think 15 touches per game or something like that to start out the season, we could see a rotation of Devontae Booker and Kadarius Toney taking some snaps. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. He has that, I want to say, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel kind of slot technique to him, something that Shepard doesn't have with him. So if he can do that, if they work him into the offense, it all depends on this week of practice before the big games. And I'm not buying into Evan Ingram being at practice because it was Sunday. It's a walkthrough day. I'm not buying it. Like there's something wrong with Evan Ingram. There really is. He hasn't been on a full practice schedule with pads
since 2019.
Since before the first preseason game. Since before the first preseason game, we have not seen him in full contact. And I am a little bit of worry. There's a little bit of worry about him. And fortunately enough, I'm a Giants fan. I don't have him anywhere in Dynasty. I stay away from my homers.
Yeah, I only roster him in one league. And I'm deep at tight end. I have Kittle and Jonnu, so I'm not even in Gronk. So I'm not. Evan Ingram is like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure you have like 5 other backup tight ends too.
Foster Moreau. Yeah, I got him.
Tyler Croft.
Yeah. Laura's brother.
Available.
He might be available, and if he is, go and get him.
He's a starter.
He's the starter on the Jets.
I got a waiver claim up for him in a sleeper league. That I do know for sure. So before we move on to our main topic, you know what? I want to pause. We don't have in the show sheet cut down day. We are a Dynasty podcast. Give me a couple of your biggest surprises on cut down day from either like a first or second year player. So Tyler, who are you like, dang, they cut this guy. I'm disappointed.
I mean, I wasn't shocked because I'm not a fan of the player, but it was shocking due to their depth chart. And that is Quadre Olesen. I mean, with the Falcons literally rostening you and me as their 4th and 5th running back, I'm just sitting there thinking, okay, Quadre Olesen is the backup. They'll probably sign somebody, but I don't. And then boom, cut. And then Wayne Gallman comes, and now the biggest debate on Twitter is it Wayne Gallman or Mike Davis? I mean, one player they could have gotten in free agency and one player they actually went out and approached during free agency. So, I mean, it's Mike Davis, but Wayne Gallman's going to get touches. Wayne Gallman, as much as I want to eat crow on this, I don't. I'm not a Wayne Gallman fan. He looked decent the past couple of years. He looks like he's getting a little better. He's a fine RB2 for an NFL team. I don't want to roster him in fantasy because he's not going to do anything for you. And yeah, I mean, Quadre Olesen was a shock because a lot of people really wanted him to be a thing when it came to Twitter. A lot of people were saying, nope, he's the running back. It's not Mike Davis. And I just sat there saying, if you guys really want any of these guys on your team, especially at Mike Davis's draft cost, no, thank you.
Yeah, I like on Twitter how I heard like, oh, Gallman's going to cut into Davis's workload. Be like, guys, he was a street free agent. They
could have had him over Mike Davis if they really wanted him.
Yeah, so I love that narrative. I was like, please. So I'm going to give you a couple of mine. One was Cornell Powell, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that was shocking.
He had a great senior year for Clemson, went over 1,000 yards. He looked rocked up, like he looked like he was in great shape. They drafted him, and I think it was in the 5th round. There's not a huge fourth round. There's not a very deep depth chart there. I mean, you've got Tyreek, obviously. You've got McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, Pringle. I mean, he should have been able to make this team, but he didn't. So that was a surprise to me because of the draft capital. Daz Newsome was another one for the Chicago Bears, who I liked a lot. He ends up getting cut. And
Des Fitzpatrick, the 4th round pick.
Yeah, and they traded up for him. I think they gave up like 3 picks.
I think they re-signed him to the practice squad, though.
Yeah.
But
that was another surprise.
The one for me was Antonio Gandy Golden because I liked him out of Liberty.
Yeah.
And I thought he had some potential there, but now he's in a very crowded wide receiver room in Washington. And with Curtis Samuel coming back, there's just no room for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, Gandy Golden was a bit of a surprise. Fun fact, he can solve a Rubik's Cube extremely fast. He's very intelligent.
Knowledgeable.
Yes. Super knowledgeable. So that's a fun fact.
I could do it in 30 months, maybe.
One thing I didn't want to dismiss either is that Royce Freeman was picked up by the Carolina Panthers. And, Chuba Hubbard, very popular handcuff in redraft seasons. I see him get drafted at the end of drafts all the time because we know that if CMC gets injured again, as of the depth chart, before they got Royce Freeman, it was Chuba all day. They add Freeman. I think it's still Chuba as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that they add Freeman. Other teams that put in waivers for him, I think, was the Raiders
and the Ravens.
And the Ravens. Yep. So that was
The
interesting.
Ravens.
I've seen a lot of people pick up Tyson Williams on waivers in this past week and blow a lot of fab for him because he is the RB2 right now for Baltimore. So it's obvious that Baltimore is thinking about adding another player into that backfield. And
that means no confidence in Justice Hill or Tyson Williams.
I think it's more Justice Hill. They don't have confidence in him and his injured past. He's still injured right now. He's more of a day-to-day type thing. But yeah, I think it's more of a Justice Hill. I actually like Tyson Williams. And if Matt Waldman, who is like the running back whisperer on his videos, if he likes a running back, my ears perk up, and he is a big fan of Tyson Williams.
Mm-hmm. So I've seen him get added in some leagues this week as well. So it's been a fun week for the ads and the drops and the roster cut downs. I'm compliant, and we'll talk about that here in a moment when we go into our main topic. But before we do, I want to talk to you guys about Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack is awesome. You can upgrade your fantasy league by getting an awesome championship belt, a trophy, or a grill. If you like to, like smile and be like champion, you can do that. It's pretty cool. They've got hockey, basketball, baseball, soccer. You can customize for anything that you want. Trophy Smack has a trophy for you. You can use code DHHRing and get a free $60 championship ring with the purchase of a trophy or a belt. They also have stuff for the losers of your league. I did get the toilet bowl in one of my leagues, and I got like a...
Did you get the toilet seat?
No, it was like a
that.
wood square with like a fake turd on top of it. But I'll tell you what, it was intentional because I traded away players, and I had 11 picks in the first 50 players in my redraft league in New Hampshire, and I am absolutely stacked this year. So I kicked the can down the road, and now I'm deep all over the place. Going to make a championship
kick the turd
run.
to the next loser next year, right?
Yes, I'm going to be
Looks like you're going to have a better trophy this year from Trophy Smack.
Yes, absolutely. And so when you go on trophysmack.com, make sure you use code DHHRing for that free ring at checkout. All right, so let's get on to our main topic here. So we are talking about unwritten rules in leagues, redraft or dynasty. There's a lot of stuff that we see people complain about it on Twitter all the time. We've seen league drama happen in our chat groups, whether you're on GroupMe or Twitter or Slack or whatever you use to communicate. There's always seems to be that one person in a league that isn't paying attention. They never respond to trade offers. They are absent. They can't submit a lineup, which is my biggest thing. I commission an MFL league. It's the Dynasty League I referenced earlier that I got Jarrett Patterson in. And there was one guy last year that I noticed wasn't submitting lineups. And I said, Andrew, like, I understand that you're super busy. And I said, hey, do you poop every day? And he's like, yeah, I poop every day. Of course. I go, then you can set your lineup, because that's what I do. When I poop, I have my phone, like most people, in my hand. And I go, oh, it's stinker tinker time, just like the league.
Yep. Bingo.
And you sit there, and I don't tinker with my lineups. I set my lineups, and then I'm good. So at least do that. And I warned him. I said, hey, I'm going to let it slide this time. There was a couple weeks in a row you didn't set a lineup. Make sure you keep your nose clean the rest of the season. He's got a good team. I said, if it happens again, like, we're going to have a conversation, because I have no time for that.
Can I piggyback off that?
Absolutely.
I mean, the whole episode premise actually came from a league issue of mine. The league it's my longest running league. It's my first ever dynasty league. And my buddy was a commissioner. He wasn't feeling anymore, didn't have the time. So he's like, you're going to commish. I'm going to leave the league. I found a couple new good owners. The league has really picked up steam again. We got some good active owners, but there's this one owner that last year I had to submit lineups for 5 weeks because he was absent. And I did 2 weeks. I tried to email him, message him, and I said, hey man, you got to submit your lineups. People aren't happy. I can't do it at the moment. I need you to do it. And he didn't respond. So after the third week, when I started seeing him not having an actual lineup in, I took control and I submitted lineups due to league integrity. And I got pushback from that this week. We kicked him out of the league because he wasn't active again, didn't have an actual lineup to submit for this week. And I got pushback, and people were like, well, one guy was like, hey, you can't do that. He paid his money. He gets to do what he wants with the team. I said, no, not in leagues I run. I said, I don't know how you guys ran it before, but that's not how I run leagues. And I said, after so many weeks of you not submitting a lineup, I'm going to do it because I don't want people thinking it's unfair for others. You know, people making the playoffs because they played that said team and it was pretty much a free buy. So I went on Twitter and I asked Scott Fish and Ryan McDowell and I said, hey, did I do this correctly? Am I in the wrong here? And Ryan McDowell said, you know, it's your league. It's your league. You run it. And my favorite post, one of the rules, I'm gonna kick it off. One of the rules that was posted by our very own Tim Keller, that ex-host, he posted. Let me find it. Okay. The commish reserves the right to make the decision based on the interest of the league. And that should be the biggest rule. So your commish, his job is to what? Make sure the league is running smooth. There's no hostility. There's no, we'll go over other things, but mainly just to make sure the league is staying afloat and make sure the league is fair and make sure everybody's playing nice and there's nothing going on. And I told the guy this. I said, hey, that's how I run leagues. I want this league to be the best. And he didn't like it. He's like, well, it's not the rules. So I thought mentally, it's an unwritten rule. Like that's an unwritten rule. You know that you need to submit lineups. It doesn't matter if you pay for the league. You need to submit lineups. That's the
bare minimum.
That's the biggest.
It's part
rule.
Of fantasy football. You have to set your lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the biggest rule is submit a lineup. That's all you have to do. If you don't want to submit a lineup, if you don't have the time for that, like everybody said on Twitter, there's best ball leagues. Have fun with that. Drop out of the league. If you don't have time, make the league better. Submit a lineup.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Part of me is like in the commissioner of the one league, I didn't set his lineup. I didn't take over for him. I gave him, it was like 2 weeks. And then I was able to actually get a conversation with him. And I don't know if he didn't submit a lineup, I don't know that I would have. There's something about it. I'm kind of on the fence about that. So there's part of me, like as a commissioner, is like, all right, like it's his team, he runs it. And then I understand like, oh, well, he shouldn't be a free win. But at the same time, like if I'm putting in players and they beat someone else, that person has a full thing to be like, well, he didn't even set his lineup. The commissioner did. And I lost to him where I would have won. So that creates even more drama. So there's no really right or wrong way. I guess it's really, you have a conversation with the league and then you put it up for vote and say, hey, so-and-so is not setting his lineup. I can do one of two things. I can either submit his projected points or I cannot submit a lineup at all, and have the league vote on it and make it more of a democracy thing. And I'm full commissioner. I make the hard decisions. If it's something I don't have a problem being like, it's going to be this way. But stuff like that, because that'll only create more drama if you don't kind of put it out there for everyone. And I don't know if that's what you did, Tyler, or not, but that's something that how I would probably handle it as a commissioner.
I mean,
so
it was brought up in the league. I had at least 5 owners message me, be like, hey, this is unfair. He needs to have a legit lineup. And I didn't add anybody. I brought up a taxi squad player one week and put him into the lineup. And that was it. The players he had, I just put in a lineup. If they weren't on bye, I slid them in. It wasn't picking anybody up. It wasn't getting deep into the week. Who should he start and all this. It was just okay, here's who he's got. I'm going to throw somebody in and just submit. Yeah.
It's probably my biggest pet peeve because I'm in 13, 14 leagues right now. And I still submit my lineup and I do it when I have downtime. So when I'm chilling on the couch or when I'm in the bathroom, I can submit a lineup. It's not a hard thing to do. What I hate is the excuses. So for instance, this particular owner is like, hey, I'm really busy. I don't have time. And I was like, dude, I stay at home with 2 kids. I'm running around doing all this stuff and I make the time. I don't accept any excuse unless you're sick in the hospital. You had something, something really bad happen, then I get that. I'm dropped
human. Your phone in the toilet bowl. That happens.
Well, even if you drop your phone in the toilet bowl, you have a computer. So you could use your wife's phone,
laptop in the computer.
iPad. There's tons.
Or hey, guess what? You reach out to the commissioner via text message and say, hey man, my electronics.
He doesn't have a phone.
No
have a phone.
Sure.
Letter. Mail letter.
Email, work email.
Let me jump in here real fast because these are unwritten rules. And I think it goes beyond that. Like even as a commissioner, you know, as you start out a league and you want to start a dynasty league or any kind of fantasy football league, you need to realize, hey, who am I bringing into this league? I want to make it competitive. I want to make it fun. You have to have an equal skill set and engagement rate as well. Like you need to know who's going in this league to make the league fun. You don't want to have to deal with that drama of people not talking in the chat, not wanting to do trades, not wanting to set their lineups. This is the unwritten rule right here. If you're a commissioner and you're starting out, choose your managers wisely for your league, and you won't have to deal with all this crap. And like Doug said, if there is something that comes up like that, put it to the league. That way you're not singled out as the commissioner, as the bad guy. Although I love playing the bad guy, when I have to put my foot down as a commissioner, I'll do it. But put it to a vote. If it's a 6-5 vote that the guy's getting kicked out of the league because he hasn't set his lineup in 3 weeks, guess what? The league has spoken.
Right.
That's it.
But it should be pretty easy to find a replacement. And I think these are more redraft problems in Dynasty, especially with the inactive owners. I see it in redraft leagues.
Right.
Not the ones that I'm in, but I used to play a lot more redraft than I did Dynasty. And there was always like those two owners, like outside of week 4, I started 1 and 3, and they're just fade into the wind.
And then I'm also, I'm sorry.
Oh, in a Dynasty league, at the end of your bylaws, put at the end with stars, exclamation points. The commish reserves the right to make decisions based on the interests of the league, because any argument anybody has where you're making the league better, like I'm not talking about scoring changes or anything like that.
Right.
Not anything huge, but like stuff like this. If people are really butting heads in the middle of it, then like James said, play the bad guy. Say, look at the bottom of the bylaws. I have the decision to submit a lineup to make the integrity of this league better, so we can just move on. I mean, you're not like, say, you know, I'm not adding anybody, just move on. The lineup submitted. Hey, you took a loss to somebody who's not controlling the league. That's on you, buddy. That's not on me. I just put the players in that he has. So that, I mean, that's pretty much the rationale I'm seeing. And I mean, it was passed. I talked to the guy who had an issue with it. They were friends. The guy I kicked out. Yeah. Well, I didn't kick out. He left because I was like, hey, if you're not going to do this,
see you later.
Yeah. So I told him he was on a short leash. Then he voluntarily left.
Oh, well, so, you didn't kick him out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
not so much of a bad guy.
And then the guy who's friends with him is the one who had the issues and was like, hey, you can't do this. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of can, because it doesn't matter if you just pay money and just give up. That's not how I'm going to play a league. Yeah,
same here. And I want to piggyback a little bit on the bylaws, because one of the things in the league that I run is that I've been challenged a couple of times. Well, show me it in the bylaws. And I'm like, ugh. And I just eye roll and be like, you didn't find it. Here it is. And I'll copy and paste it. And sometimes there's little devil in the details stuff that's not in the bylaws.
Unwritten rules. So remember, on MFL, you can always add to the bylaws as you go. So you can make it and customize it your own. But I think Tyler made a really good point, is that, you know, you put it in there with the asterisks and you say, hey, like, the commission reserves the right to make decisions based on the interest of the league. And that doesn't mean like I make the decisions I want to make. I get to do 5 super flex spots.
But there's going to be like, there was one thing around waivers, like, because this is salary cap league, it was like, oh, if I drop this $10 million player and drop him to waivers, and then I put in for him at $1 million, like I'll have a salary. They eat some of the salary, kicking it down the road in that type of format. But then they can pick up the player and then sign them for 5 years if they wanted to. So there was some timing issues with that we talked about, because we have a league meeting after the end of the year to discuss like new rules and kind of some of the, you know, the micro things that might come up. And we had a discussion around it. And for me, it was just like, don't be a jerk, like do it ethically. Like if you're going to pull stuff like that and kind of bend the rules, like don't do it. You should know better.
I think that there's a good point there, Doug. You know, every year we go through and leagues are always constantly developing and evolving into different things. And what I implemented in one of my dynasty leagues that I'm the commission is I implemented penalties, and I made sure everybody knew what the penalties were. You want to be a wise guy, you want to find loopholes,
got such a jersey.
Hey, you know, there's a bunch of wise guys.
You want to find some loopholes out?
You want to be a wise guy? You know, you can get a pair of cement shoes. But no, for real. It really stopped people from, because I have a taxi slot operation where I allow first and second year players on taxi. Mm-hmm. But there's a trust system on once they come out of taxi, they cannot go back on.
Yeah, it's the same thing in my league.
And it's a trust system. Mm-hmm. Yet I, as commissioner, you know, it was the years. This is only year 3 of the league. But for the first 2 years, I watched it. And I called people and I said, you know what? I'm not playing babysitter this much, because we know as commissioners, you are the babysitter. And I have, like, you know, between the 3 of us, I'm pretty sure we probably have about 40 leagues between the 3 of us, at least. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to be a babysitter that in depth anymore. So I'm like, you know what? I'm putting penalties to it. I catch you once, it's a verbal warning. About everybody in the league has had a verbal warning. So this year, at the end of last year, I said, all right, verbal warnings are over. I'm going to start taking draft picks away. And it's going to start in a 5th and then a 4th. And what happens is they wind up just being compensatory picks. Mm-hmm. That's it. And everybody's like, oh, wait, you're taking away my future here. And we have money involved in this. I said, you saw it. You agreed to it. If you don't want to be in the league, here's your chance to get out, and I will fit somebody else in. I mean, it's not a problem. Just let me know. I'll be happy. Someone will be happy to take over your team.
Yeah, we decided to do, if you don't submit a lineup, we voted on it as a league as one of our off-season changes, was that if you don't submit a lineup, because we had a long conversation about it, it's a $10 fine. So if you don't submit a lineup, it's $10 and then it goes in the pot. So for the league.
That's a great idea. I put in the rules after this whole entire thing that if you do it once, I'm talking to you. If I can't get a hold of you and you do it again, it's a 3rd. If you do it again, it's a 2nd. If you do it a 4th time, it's a 1st. And then if you do it, like if it's like ongoing, you're out of here. But then the owner who comes in gets the picks back.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you don't want to have them come into a league with completed picks because the other guy was
this idiot screwed you up.
Yeah, sorry, your future sucks because you have no picks because the other guy was an asshat. Like, yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah.
So let's get to another one. And this one, I've been guilty of this a couple times, only when I've been busy. So it might go 48 or 72 hours. I never let anything sit in my inbox for days at a time, like 5-6 days, which I've seen happen to me. Respond to trades in a timely manner. Like if someone's reaching out to you and offering you a trade, even if it's awful, like respond to it. Yay, nay, put something in the notes. I hate the blind reject. It could be like, hey, like I'm not really feeling the values here, or could you throw a draft pick in? Like, or I've even thrown stuff out there like, what the hell are you thinking? Like the values are so off, but at least I respond. So trades in a timely manner is a big one for me, because I know I've sent trades out there and they just expire, and it's like, really, like I'm trying to make my team better. And the way I trade, I look at the team that I'm trading with and I try to think of something that's going to help both of us. Is kind of how I trade. I try to be a fair trade dealer with like, hey, I need running back help. You need wide receiver help. Like, let's look at this. And maybe it's he throws in a pick or I throw in a pick and we get the deal done. But that can never happen if it just sits there. And I've even reached out to people on like Voxer and all these other things, and it's crickets. And that's frustrating, because if there's a player that you want to try to get, like for instance, kickoff is Thursday, week 1 starts then, big Sunday. You're probably throwing out trade offers now on players that you really like, because guess what? On Thursday or Sunday or Monday, if those players have a great game, their price is going to go boop. So you're trying to get like, maybe it's a Darnell Mooney or maybe whoever it is.
Doug is literally talking about my whole weekend I've done all weekend. Like that is my whole weekend.
So I haven't gotten a trade offer from you yet. What's going on, man?
We're in one league together. So
two.
Actually, two. Yeah.
So it's one of those.
Soon to probably change.
It's one of those windows. It's just like the end of the year. So the beginning of the year, you're trying to get the players that you have a hunch are going to break out, and you're trying to get them at a value. And it's the same thing at the end of the year. After week 17, you're throwing out offers for guys that maybe they're rookies that didn't hit, or anyone
James
that
Robinson, you're trying to get rid of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
drop them
big
right
time
now.
players.
Yeah, just get rid of them. So those are the kind of moves, and those types of moves are crucially important for you in building your teams. Like the thing with Dynasty is it's like a stock market. Like you want to try to buy low, and sometimes if you really like a player, go ahead and buy high because they could even be higher. So
T. Higgins.
Yeah. So to me, like that's a big thing is just respond to trades in a timely manner because it would drive me insane if I had a player I was targeting in multiple leagues and I had offers out there and then they expired and then, guess who had a big week 1 and looked like an absolute stud.
And then they
at the time I had a fair offer and then now they're trying to milk me for an extra draft pick or a player.
That's always the case. It's always you're trying, like right now I'm trying to push for Terrace Marshall in a home league. I've offered trade after trade. I'm overpaying. Like this is my overpay for my guy period, which will look like an overpay now, but will look like an underpay in a couple weeks. So that's a kind of like my thought and theory that I usually do around this week. And Terrace Marshall right now in a home league, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to get it. He's barely replying, but I know for a fact week 1, Terrace Marshall hits. I know for a fact the second that happens, he's going to come out of his mole hole and then just start yapping.
Hey, give me a 2022 first.
He's going to start yapping like crazy and being like, hey.
So you wanted him.
Yeah. So let's talk about this trade. No. That's not how it works. You respond to your trades. Like right now, like that's the whole reason. Like Rondale Moore, go get that Rondale Moore share because his week 1 could be amazing. There's so many rookies right now that you could get for like a second round pick that yes, if they hit in week 1, they're a first round pick value wise easily. Yep. So respond to trade offers. If you don't like it, just say, hey, I'm not interested in trading the guy.
Like that's my guy. I'm going to hold him.
That's easy enough.
That's all you got to say.
And if you're going to go out there, unwritten rule, don't throw out a lopsided trade that is just overweighted. Like, I recently J.K. Dobbins is injured and I know there was a lot of movement going on there. People trying to, don't go out there and try to offer a third or fourth round pick for J.K. Dobbins. Like don't do those uneven trades. It's not worth it. Like and when you do get an uneven trade, what I like to do is be like, hey, listen, you might not be right here on this value. Like, don't be a jerk about it. And sometimes I know people like send, double the worst amount of trade, they'll double back with some obscene trade. Don't do that. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Try to be nice a little bit and say, hey, listen, our values aren't right here. Look at the real picture here. And let's do something fair. If you want to trade, I'm ready to listen, but let's work together on this. Don't just think, don't try to take advantage of me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also another trade strategy I like to do, especially around this time, like I'll be like, hey, I'm interested in a player and I know like our values can differ, but literally send me a trade of all the players you're interested in with nobody on your side. And I will look at this said list. Like if you don't want to sit here and name all players, just literally click the box of players you're interested in, send me the trade, revoke it, and then I'll look at this list and then I will figure something out and then we can start from there. Like that's another
or update your
strategy
trade bait. That's another one. Like people that don't update their trade bait.
I feel like trade bait is like an urban legend. People don't think it exists because nobody.
I was
really
able to get
looks at
players off of trade bait.
I got Sam Darnold off of it this year.
I mean, I use it. I'll look through the list like Capitals Pigs, Doug. Trade bait is the best thing on that league because it is chock full of players. And by the way, I'm aiming for you in Capitals Pigs 2 next year.
Oh, you're gonna come back in?
Yes. And I love that. But a lot of people like home leagues, they don't really look at the trade bait. So if I'm interested, post it in a chat, be like, hey, these 3 guys are on the bait, then they're on the block, come get them.
On the bait.
If somebody says they're interested in them,
on the
debatable.
If somebody says they're interested in them, then I'll be like, hey, I'll send you a trade. It's just going to be of the players I'm interested in. Let me know who you're willing to trade. Mm-hmm. Like I think verbal communication, like James said, is the best strategy for trades, especially in a dynasty league where there's so many players on rosters.
You know what's a really good old school tactic? Usually leagues, you have people with a phone. And if you have their phone number, you can go beep, boop, 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 boop. Hey, man. I was interested
Pete Davidson.
Yes. I was interested in Terrace Marshall, like looking over your roster. Hey, how you been? How's the family? Trade me Terrace Marshall. It's a lot easier.
You keep sliding it in.
it's a lot easier to do it that way than even over text message. Like it's something about like for me, it's listening to a person's voice. Like they can see like, hey, I'm excited. And they're probably like, oh, wow, we really want to Terrace Marshall.
Doug Breeze heavily.
And I can also hear them and being like, I can see if they're like, maybe they don't want to trade him. So I might have to come up a little bit. You can't get that kind of context over text message or email.
Hey,
so
I mean, Pete Davidson and UDPL during the rookie draft, like that's how we made a trade. I mean, I get Pete's like 98 years old.
His was actually the rotary.
Yes. I mean, I actually really enjoyed that trade talk because it was like 15 minutes of us just talking a trade. It was very fun. And he's sitting there and we talked about other trades people are making and kind of like roster builds. And then finally, like, he's just like, I think I can do this. And then, like like you said, the tone of the voice, you could be like, okay, fine. I will slide in a third just to push this over the edge. But then you can tell them like straight up in verbal communication. Cause I don't think text people get that like sternness. Like you can sit there and say, that's all I'm giving. Like, if that's not it, we just got to kind of walk our separate ways.
And you can send that on a text and they'll be like, wow, you're being a dick, but you're not. Like, it's just because the context isn't there. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I do agree. Like, I like that. And I like the whole league meeting thing. That's really good for certain rules.
Two of my leagues, we do that. It's good.
I think I need to start implementing that in a lot of leagues where we have a yearly meeting. We talk about rules, changes, and things that can make the league better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if there's not much to talk about, hey, you're going there, you're usually eating food and drinking alcohol and seeing your friends. Like, cool.
Yeah. Right. And if it's not a live draft, I like to at least have some kind of social media, like social media page or a LinkedIn or a Zoom meeting with going on during the draft. So like people can talk, they can interact, they know each other in the league. It's not just playing with a bunch of strangers or, hey, I see you once a year and go on their separate ways. I play fantasy to keep friendships and have a good time doing what I love to do. And there's a passion that goes into it. And I've gained a lot of friends doing so. And I want to keep that going throughout the year, throughout the season, even in the off season, be like, hey, that's why I started getting into Dynasty, because I wanted to carry it over into the off season. Exactly. There is no off season.
So before we wrap up, any final unwritten rules real quick, under a minute or less, that you wanted to throw out there that kind of like grind your gears, if you will, Family Guy style? Anything else that you want to throw out there before we wrap up?
Yeah, know what you're signing up for when you're going to be a commish. Don't be like Tyler and
or
say,
even if you're going to be in a dynasty league,
don't cry about being the commissioner, because once you've signed up for it, you've got that death wish. Whatever, it all comes with it. I try not to be a commish too many times. I'm only a commish in a couple leagues, but when I am, I'm stern. Like I said, I'll do what I got to do to get them out of here if I have to. But yeah, you know who we are. Yeah.
Tyler, anything to wrap us up?
If you make trades and somebody's newer in Dynasty, I had this happen today. Don't try to screw that owner over just because. I saw a trade today go off and I had to actually push the owner to add a second rounder to it because it was egregious. It was a terrible, it was a bad trade. It was David Johnson, a third and a fourth for Joe Mixon. It was gross.
Oh,
yeah. And it's a new owner who came in, and it's the owner that took over for this other team, and they're friends. So I legit had to message them both and be like, hey, is this collusion? And he's like, no, it's not. And I said,
that's when you pull up the trade calculator and be like,
and I messaged the guy who did the trade and got Mixon. I said, hey, I've known him for a while. He works with me. I said, hey, you've got to add something to this, just because. I said, this looks terrible, especially when this is your friend. I said, I'm not for this. I will revoke it, because this is one of those trades that I'm going to revoke. It kind of screws him over. And he's like, fine, I'll add something. I get it. I don't want people to be mad, but don't do that. If there's a new owner in Dynasty, let them enjoy Dynasty how it should be. Let them get their feet
don't let them
wet.
Start their team off at a disadvantage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, let them get their feet wet. Let them roll on.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Well, that is going to wrap us up this week on the Dynasty Happy Hour, live again on fantasypoints.com mega stream, which has been absolutely awesome. Make sure you use code 21DHH10 for 10% off a subscription. 90% made the playoffs last year, which is absolutely awesome. Also, shout out to Trophy Smack. DHHring.com. Once again, use code DHHring to get that awesome $60 championship ring. Check out Viridian Global if you're interested in some DHH merch. We got it right over there. You can just search Dynasty Happy Hour to find it on there. I am your host, Doug. You can find me on Twitter at The Fantasy Father. You can find James at FF_chef and Tyler at DHH_Tyler, if I remember correctly. And that is going to wrap it up for Dynasty Happy Hour this week. Guys, best of luck this season. I cannot wait to watch football with my friends, my family, eat the food that's not good for me, and just be in my element. I am so excited. So we'll be back next week to talk about it because week 1 is the unknown. And we're going to jump into it, and there's going to be all sorts of awesome things to chat about with James, myself, and Tyler next week on the Dynasty Happy Hour.
Wow.